Hey there, internets. This is Kyle. Hope you're doing well today. And let's give you a quick update on some progress for today and also talk about breaking the chains in your own life and for your future generations. Cue the cool YouTube intro. Just kidding. I don't do any of that production crap, but at least not yet. But hey, hope you're doing well. Today's Sunday. I'm doing okay, although for some random freaking reason, I don't know what is up with my body these days. You know, you hit 40 years old and things just go to shit real quick. But got like these back spasm things going on in my lower back, and it's very painful, and I don't like that. So I don't like it one bit. I'm not sure who decided in my body that this was a good idea to start spazzing out, but I'm not about it. So I'm trying to figure out who I got to talk to about this, but it is no bueno here this evening dealing with back. I tried to take a hot bath. I used some of the icy hot cream stuff. I don't know, it doesn't really seem to do much, but I don't know. Comment down below if you got back spasms. What do you like to do about that? So I won't really show you anything specifically here on the internets, but I did make a little more progress in terms of getting a podcast channel set up or whatever, signed up for the Buzz Sprout, I think, which it's free for like 3 months, so try it out, see, make sure it works. But Buzz Sprout is basically the platform you can go to upload your recordings to, and then they will distribute that out to all the major platforms, and then they also give you like a custom website that, whatever is a nice clean website for your podcast. And you can also connect that to a custom domain, which I was struggling a little bit with. I don't know what my problem is with getting these freaking custom domains to work across all my issues with ClickFunnels and now with the stupid Buzzsprout thing, but figured out. I guess I slightly overread some of the directions they gave, but I did not find anything on YouTube, which is my typical source of information. So what did I do? I recorded a quick video, and I posted that up earlier today, showing you how to link your custom domain in Buzzsprout if you're using Cloudflare. Although it doesn't really matter what your domain provider is, it's all the same. You just need to insert the right DNS record. So I did that today, just in case anybody else is out there in internet land looking for that little tidbit of information. Now it's available. Random thought here, I do think a little bit about kind of what's the future of the internets, and what do businesses need to be doing to get, somewhat of an edge over other folks. And one thing I've certainly noticed, I don't know if I'm sure it's not new, but I've just kind of been paying attention to it more recently, I guess, is that when you search for stuff on Google, it like the top page or 2 pages of results are usually take you to some random kind of BS websites that were clearly like, either they're some massive company, like if it's a health question, of course you got WebMD, and you got like, I don't know, Healthline.com or something, and just these big conglomerations of generic information that it's like, not always super helpful. It's kind of, they just restate the obvious, whatever you're looking for. And then you got a bunch of websites that maybe you haven't heard of, but they have like these huge articles about whatever the topic was that you searched for, right? And it's clear that whoever wrote that probably not an expert in answering that question, but it's probably somebody who got paid to just write some content for that website as they were trying to drive traffic to their page, which obviously they succeeded if they got in the first page or two of the rankings on Google. And that's how a lot of people are try to get traffic, of course, because you can do it organically. They're not paying for ads on Google. They're just have the right keywords, so they get ranked highly. Google puts them in front of people, and then people go to their web pages. But for the actual people doing the searching, is really super annoying, obviously, to go to those pages. And I mean, you spend like 2 or 3 minutes trying to scroll through all this crap until you realize, like, this doesn't really make any sense. I don't believe any of this anyway. And then you go back to look for something more legit. But it's like there's so many more of those websites these days. I think that is like a real problem with the whole Googling thing. Now, that being said, Google is getting better at, you notice when you type in some question you have, in the search results, Google will have like either that specific question, or if you didn't exactly ask a question, it would maybe write out the full question that it thinks you were intending to ask. And it has like multiples, like 10 different things. Like I made up like Google search for muscle spasm back pain or something like that. And multiple questions like, what do you do to treat muscle spasm back pain? And can you go to a chiropractor to address muscle spasm back pain? So it has all these list of questions that are like separate from the search results that are links. And you can just, within Google, click like a down button, and it just spits out some text from a website that it believes has the answer to that question. And then of course you could then click into the website, and it would take you to the actual website where it had that information, and then would highlight it for you so you can see what you're looking at. And sometimes those are actually pretty useful, I found. And they seem to be linking to decent websites, not just a bunch of random content generation type websites. But aside from that, again, the rest of the Google results tend to just kind of be a bunch of hot garbage. And thus they're losing, in my opinion, some credibility. Now, I don't know future-wise what that really means for Googling, since I don't see us as a society moving away from doing that. But I guess it's maybe a question, I'm sure Google engineers think about it or whatever, of trying to figure out a way to get rid of all these junk content creation sites that just have, paid writers. Probably a lot of foreign writers in the Philippines for 30 cents or whatever to pump out 1,000-word article on whatever topic of choice. And it's just a bunch of fluff and bullshit. But, I'm sure they're thinking about how do they get those out of their search results, because obviously for the people that are like real experts in answering whatever those questions are that people are looking for, it's harder for them to actually show up in the rankings. And what I think is also becoming more utilized, at least I've been using it more, is when I search for whatever topic, I have a question about whatever, you put the classic Reddit tag at the end, just say, whatever, how do I deal with muscle back spasms, Reddit. And that way it pulls up all the results from reddit.com, which, again, in general, in my experience, Reddit's just an online forum basically, but it takes you then to people that are actually talking about that specific question that you had. And I don't know, something I like a lot more about Reddit than, like, say, Facebook, but I mean, I guess it's kind of similar. They're similar type things. I mean, obviously anybody can go into a Reddit forum, and just like anybody can go into a Facebook group and spout off some random bullshit that they completely made up. But I don't know, in general, I kind of get a feeling, which is just a feeling, which means literally nothing, but just a feeling that people that go to Reddit and actually post things on Reddit are just doing it because like they just want to hang out and talk about whatever the topic is, and that's what they do. And they probably do have some actual experience with the thing. Whereas Facebook, I think, is just filled up with a bunch of fake bullshit. But anyway, so that's one way I try to work around the whole Googling thing. But hopefully Google's trying to work that out so we can, the stuff you get in their listings is actually more useful than not. But the point to all that, aside from just how do I do my Googling personally, aside from that is thinking about, again, as you're starting an online business, how do you try to use that to your advantage? And I don't mean I'm going to create a website and just pay a bunch of writers to generate a bunch of bullshit content for me, because I think that's stupid. But if I want to have a website that I'm generating like legit content of my own, as being an expert in the things I'm going to be talking about on my website or my blog or whatever, podcast, etc. I guess I just have to we'll have to deal with that fact of the competition is a bunch of these just random bullshit types of websites. But I guess it also maybe speaks to the fact that it does seem people are more interested in, getting for a more personalized response to whatever their question is, which has kind of led to all these, course creators doing all these online courses for specific topics, right? And people are willing to pay for these things. I mean, I paid for some, obviously. People are willing to pay for these things to learn some issue they're dealing with, right? And also like coaching, I've seemed to hear a lot more about. Like personal coaching seems to be something I hear a lot more about these days. So again, that's people wanting a more personal connection with somebody who's maybe dealt with the thing they're trying to deal with. I mean, my wife and I hired a lady to help us with potty training, and I mean, virtually, not, she lives in Chicago or whatever, but we had a few Zoom calls. She helped us come up with some plans, and it helped to a certain degree. Anyway, that's a story for another time, but again, point being, in that case, I could have, spent 2 or 3 weeks Google searching potty training for kids and just gotten a bunch of generic bullshit, recommendations, typical stuff that everybody says you should do. But that's not what we were looking for. We needed something specific to deal with our specific problems and our specific situation. And I think there's more people that are now recognizing that in order to cut through all the bullshit out there on the internet, it's just quicker to pay somebody a few bucks. I mean, if you believe that person has a skill or something that will help you in whatever you're trying to deal with, paying them a few bucks to give you direct information about your specific problem. I mean, that does seem to be kind of the wave of the future. I mean, it already is a wave happening now, but I suspect it'll continue to grow overall. So just being sure, I guess, you're positioned to make use of that in the best way possible is the point there. I don't know. Kind of rambling a little bit, but I did want to mention a podcast I listened to today by Russell Brunson. Russell Brunson's podcast talking about breaking the chains of kind of your own belief patterns, and how obviously all of us are products of our environment that we are raised in. We are a product of the values and beliefs that our parents had, whether that was with 1 or 2 parents in your home. And it's a product of all the values that any of your teachers had, or mentors growing up, church leaders, whoever else. All those people brought things to the table, and whether directly influenced you by teaching you something specifically, or by indirectly influencing you by the fact that you were watching these people live their lives and just, allowing that to influence your own way of seeing the world, that all kind of made you who you are today, in some respects at least. And that a lot of times you have to kind of recognize the fact that, very likely a lot of those things you learned or traits you developed by watching other people are not the traits you want to have. What not to say that the things your parents taught you were all entirely wrong or bad. I mean, probably some of them were. I mean, no parent's perfect, but even in the cases where they were just trying to push you in a direction that they felt was necessary based on their own experiences, that might be wrong for you and your experiences. And specifically when it comes to like money and finances, I mean, this is certainly something I would say I've already kind of broken some chains in my own personal mindset just about what I'm personally capable of, even in just my own day job that I do. Not to say I'm like the best at it, but I have learned the system well enough, I guess you could say, to become relatively pretty successful financially with what I do. I mean, well beyond what my parents ever made, and I mean, I'm sure surpassed like all my siblings pretty significantly overall. And not to say I'm the best with my finances. I mean, I've certainly had ups and downs over the years, but just the fact that I'm able to earn what I'm able to earn, I've certainly tried to break through some of the limitations I think I put on myself. But even further from that, obviously in starting a business, the whole goal of this little thing is getting to like $1 million in revenue over the course of a year. I mean, $1 million in revenue would be significant. I mean, not that that's more money I've ever earned by any means, but that would just, the fact if I could do that in a relatively short period of time, that would be pretty significant. And if I could do that in a short period of time, relatively short period of time, then there's no reason I couldn't repeat that action multiple times over. And once I've done that, then there's no really limit in me being able to scale that even further in terms of if I could do 1 million in a year, can I do 10 million in a year? Like, again, people have done that. People do that every day. So there's no reason I couldn't do that if I really wanted to achieve that goal. And so on and so forth. So breaking that chain of belief, which, me coming from a typical middle class family of the 80s, my mom was a teacher, dad was a policeman at some point, tried to start his own business. That didn't work out so well. And then he went to like sales and stuff like that, and which he wasn't that great at, frankly, either. But nevertheless, that's just kind of typical middle class. Work until you're able to retire, able to get your Social Security checks, and just do the best you can until then. Is the general vibe I come from, and I just don't want to do that. I'm 40 years old now, so my retirement age is 67 officially in terms of Social Security stuff, so I don't want to work another 27 years and then just retire and just do nothing. Because that's the other thing about it is like that whole idea of like, oh, you just keep on grinding, work your 30, 40 years you need to, and then just quit. Just like, you're done. Like, I had a job that I spent 40 hours a week doing for the past 40 years. Now I'm just not going to do it. And I'm going to take up gardening or whatever bullshit activity you think is necessary. Like, that is also just not a great plan, I think, because I mean, there's plenty of examples out there of, frankly, people dying relatively quickly after they retire because, I mean, there is something like physiologically going on that once you kind of cut off that thing you've been doing for so long. Like your body doesn't kind of know how to react in the way. So some people die literally within a few years of retirement. Some people go back to work because they just get bored out of their minds and they just want to go back to work because that's what they did all their lives. And that's what they just want to do. Even though they don't need the money, that's just what they want to do until they die. And that's what they do. They go back working for some dude 40 hours a week, dealing with the same bullshit and stress that they were getting sick and tired of, but it's what they've lived with their whole life. So why wouldn't they do anything else? Like I want to avoid that. I want to get to a place where financially I don't need to work, but I do things that I just find enjoyable that still make me some income and do keep me busy and keep me excited about the game that I'm playing in. And do that, continue doing that until the day I die or I'm physically unable to do it, I guess. And not to say, I'm going to be working 40 to 80 hours a week, every week, busting my butt until I die. But, if you're financially free, then you have that flexibility to say, hey, if I want to go take a month off and whatever, go to Europe with my family, like I can do that. So that's where I'd like to be. So anyway, I was thinking about what other chains maybe am I holding on to in my own beliefs and how can I work through those and all that fun stuff. So that's about it for today. I'm going to go hit the bed and hopefully my back will not spaz out on me as I get up out of this chair and keel over in pain. So you guys keep on kicking ass, taking names, and I'll see you next time. Peace.